Well, we have rolling coverage of the investment conference that's taking place in Sandton. Let's cross now to my colleague Arabile Gumede, who has more for us.
Well, we continue, of course, to give you the latest out of the South African Investment Conference, the second one, of course, right here at the Sandton Convention Centre. Indeed, a whole host of pledges continue to be made for South Africa's growth. Believing in South Africa's growth trajectory seems to certainly be the case as well. 14 billion rand is how much ACSA has decided to put forward with regards to infrastructure. So let's chat to the acting CEO now, Fundi Sithebe, who joins us as well. Thank you so much for the time. Really appreciated the commitment behind that 14 billion. One, we need to ask, of course, whether it's a new investment, a replenishment of old investments, or whatever the case might be, and what exactly the money will be used for.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Arabile. So perhaps what we just need to say is we remember that historically we had a very large infrastructure program in the lead up to the 2010 World Cup. So as a result of that, we're now in the cycle of ensuring that we bring in additional capacity, which is largely new capacity that we bring into the infrastructure program. But we are also, where we're not bringing new infrastructure, we have to make sure that it's rehabilitated or there's an element of refurbishment. However, in the 14 billion that we've pledged forward right now, that's speaking to new capacity at largely the three big international airports, and then there are some projects around the regional airports focusing on some refurbishments as well.
Yeah. I mean, your business is primarily South Africa, but of course the international reach with regards to the airport itself is very important and very significant. How much belief and hope is there then, evidently shown by this pledge, that South Africa can get itself out of the mire?
Yeah. And I think that's a very good question, because one, we are here to say that as airports company South Africa, we're committed to ensuring that we play our part as aviation, as airports within the greater economy of South Africa. So we're saying as South Africa is open for business. However, at the back of that, we're also saying that as the largest airport operator within Africa, we have an equal responsibility to make sure that we also play our part within the Africa context. So at the moment, we do have a number of technical services agreements with Ghana. We've got an agreement with the Liberian Authority. We've got an agreement with the Zambia Authority as well, Airports Operating Authority. So it really demonstrates not only our experience within South Africa, but our commitment to ensuring that aviation and airports infrastructure throughout the border Africa is adequately provided for. Notwithstanding the fact that we've also got concessions in India as well as Brazil. So our track record speaks for itself in South Africa, in Africa, and internationally as well.
Speaking about the track record in Africa, the importance of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement comes to bear. And as a port of entry, it becomes quite important to ensure that the infrastructure, as you speak about, is up to standard. Are we ready for that African Continental Free Trade Agreement as ACSA?
I think from an ACSA perspective and from a South Africa perspective, we are very ready, right? Remember, we've got the 9 airports within our network, so we're very ready. However, if you read, I think it's the latest IATA facts, is that within Africa we're going to see double-digit growth in terms of passenger numbers. So it means that from an infrastructure perspective, we have to be equally ready. And I think by and large, the infrastructure projects in Africa are starting to develop. Perhaps we could move a bit faster, but I think that we will, in terms of time and experience, start to gain the right traction to ensure that we are on par to start to receive and grow those passenger numbers that have been predicted for the next 5-year period.
And given the promises that have been made then by government, how much are you, for example, standing by and really holding the hand with government, shall we say, to walk this pathway is going to be very important. The long run is the significant part, I suppose, right now. How do we ensure that we continue to thrive, not just as ACSA, but not just as South Africa, but certainly within the African context too?
For sure. So it's very clear that airports don't exist within a silo, right? It's part of a greater value chain in terms of the economy and the catalytic impact. So I think for us, it's very clear that we need to have collaboration. We speak to collaboration even within South Africa. So remember, within an airport perspective, we have a large number of stakeholders. So it speaks to our collaboration with our airlines, collaboration with immigrations, customs, the police services. And that's by and large really worked for the South African context. We now need to take that and almost have a plug-and-play model into Africa and make sure that other African authorities understand the importance of bringing everybody together for the improvement of the passenger experience and making sure that aviation plays its part within the infrastructure perspective. And so for me, I really think that we need to package something as SA Inc. By and large, we've spoken about it, but now it's time to implement and start hunting as a pack in making sure that we are collaborating and hitting where we need to hit to in terms of making the right paces in the economies of Africa.
Making the right noises, certainly. Fundi, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Again, South Africa thanks you for the investment indeed. The Airports Company South Africa's acting CEO, Fundi Sithebe, there really highlighting just the significance and the importance of their pledge. Then 14 billion rand being pledged to South Africa's growth and infrastructure within the ACSA environment. Of course, as she says, the airports don't manufacture or just work on their own, certainly within a joint environment and a whole host of linkages that can only better South Africa's growth picture. From here on, it certainly will be up to the actions of all those involved, not just government, not just corporates, but all South African citizens. And it's made clear then by this investment conference, which will continue to cover right here at the Sandton Convention Centre. It's back to studio.